you're probably at this point going, okay, I understand why people do this in two-piece, right? Because it's not, I don't think it's easy, especially for a beginner. I think for a pro it's fine, but you know, we help people in all different skill levels, right? So the rear hatch on a Model Y Juniper, and this is only for performance and the premium line, has this pretty aggressive stretch. So because of all this aggressiveness, I think a lot of template patterns will do a two-piece for this. So they kind of seam it right here on the edge, and that is the right place to seam it because you see that seam the least amount, right? However, there have been some cases where some of our customers have asked us, hey, how do we actually do this in one piece? And for beginners, it's kind of hard to explain this. And I typically don't recommend it because you have to have a decent understanding of stretching, and it's a pretty aggressive stretch. But we wanted to still educate people if they want to tackle this on their own or with a friend. We just wanted to kind of show you. So this isn't, it's sort of an instructional, but it's also not. We're just kind of giving you some tips. If we were to do it as a shop and we were going to do this in one piece, and we do it in one piece if we're going to do it as a shop, this is how we would do it. So first off, what you want to do is actually, there's two bolts right here. It's a T, remember 30, I think? I forget. It might be less. Don't quote me on it, but it's a T. It's a Torx. There's two right here, and you just need to loosen it. And once you loosen it, you can get a little bit more into the edges. Of course, you can remove this whole thing, but it is a lot of work because you have to take all of this out. So I typically don't recommend doing that. You can get around the edges without having to do that. So that's the first step. Step number two is, this is optional, but I like doing this. You can actually put a vinyl piece like this. This is just Avery Denn's SW900. PPF loves to stick on vinyl aggressively, which is kind of what you want. So you could have a surface area when you pull, you can pull it really aggressively all across, okay? Step three is you want to use something like our waterless car wash, or really like a quick detailer that has some sort of like a sleekness to it. And you actually want to wipe down, especially this edge. Why? It kind of gives it that sleekness, and it kind of creates that coating, which will make it slide a little bit better around this little, like the apex, which is right here on this hard edge. So you actually want to use something like this. There's a lot of companies out now that do that. They have, you know, I think PNS, and then, you know, a lot of vinyl companies also have their own version of this. But for the most part, it's really just like a waterless wash quick detailer, right? So I got a gloss film right here. I actually cut it around, I would say 30 inches. And it's actually quite long. I think I made it a little bit longer. And the reason why you want it longer, you end up wasting a little bit more film, is because you don't want it to stretch so close to the edge, because the thing about PPF is it stretches a lot, but it does something called a pullback. So once it goes out in the sun and stuff, it'll pull back, and then your edges will start to shrivel up. So you really want a lot more film. And just so you understand, this has a really aggressive concave that goes inwards like this. So you really need to pull kind of this right here. You need a grip and pull like this way, right? And then you need to tack this and then go the same way. So we're gonna go ahead and just hydrate this, especially here. I think the reason why this is hard is because, one, I don't have this tail light removed. And because I don't have this tail light removed, this protrudes out almost 2 inches out, which creates a weird tension right here. And that's why, I would say, that's probably one of the hardest part about this install, just because of the way that we're doing it, okay? So once we have it all basically done, I'm gonna go ahead and just tack it down. I want it a little bit lower because typically it'll want to go down instead of up. So I'm actually just gonna start it kind of like this. At this moment, I'm not really trying to be perfect. I'm just trying to get it all out. Just try to keep that tension even. so you can see that I have a lot of space right here and a lot of space right here, but you can also see how even it is. I have about the same amount of material both ways. And then what you want to do is there's some areas that kind of went on top of each other like this. That's fine. It's also not really going to be the part that's going to be on the film itself or on the panel itself. So that's no problem. And then the first thing I'm going to do is just hydrate everything. Right? So all right here. Same thing right here. Amazing. Woo! Giving me carpal tunnel over here. All right, so here's the deal. Now that we have it laid, notice how there's just a lot of material down there. You'll see why in a second. We're gonna go ahead and try to flatten this out. What I'm gonna look for here is I'm gonna spray a lot of tack in that vinyl area. I'm gonna try to flatten this out. Okay, and once I flatten it out, I want to tack this down, just like that, okay? And you'll notice on that vinyl part, it'll tack so much aggressively than it normally does. It goes all the way down right here, so that's actually perfect. I put this on car wash mode already, right? And that's very, very important step. I'm gonna go ahead and just tack the top as well. Amazing. All right, there you go. So you can see that everything's tacked. Notice how I didn't actually tack anywhere on the panel that I'm actually doing this on, right? Because I don't want any working marks or any marks in general. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this out, okay? I'm gonna do a test pull at this point, okay? So here's where the test pull looks like. First off, get this out. You're gonna hold it like right here. So you kind of follow this line right here. And when you pull it, okay, you're gonna just kind of pull this out right here. And you can kind of see it's starting to, it's holding really well. And once you feel comfortable, it's gonna be a pretty aggressive pull. Really look at here. And you spray a lot of tack right here, aggressively. Same thing, guys. We'll pull here and right here. Really trying to get that down. Can't really see. Just gonna squeegee that down for now. Okay, so you can see right now I'm getting a nice tension right here. I'm getting a little bit of excess right here, and that's okay because we can actually go out like this. Okay, that's kind of an okay position to be in. Okay, not bad, not bad. Now you see I can just kind of pull this up, right? All right, we're just trying to do our best. Kind of lay this down. Probably should pull a little bit more on this side. Just kind of trying to read the lines, between the lines too. You can see there's plenty right here. Actually, one more time. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm just kind of free stretching. And then one more time, we're gonna go ahead, pull this out. This is where I wish I had 4 hands. Use my knee right over here. Awesome. All right, you see how tight this is right here? That's perfect. It's got really nice tension right here. You could have a little bit more, but honestly, I could pull that once I'm kind of squeegeeing everything out. So we're gonna go ahead and see if I can do that as well. All right, let's go ahead and get some tack here. Well, that's good, actually. Okay, I'm just gonna watch this. Where does this go? Oh yeah, this is perfect. Look at all that. It just kind of lays down really good. I will have to pull a little bit here. You see how aggressive that is? All right, so just gonna look at this real quick and look at this. It definitely comes down a lot more aggressively right here. And then honestly, you could just pull this up as well as you kind of cut it. So let's see if I need to just go down a little bit. Okay. There you go. That's a little bit flatter. I don't have as many issues right there. And I'm kind of want to do the same thing here. Kind of pull this up. All right. So now I'm pretty happy with this. Honestly, this is one thing that you do want to watch out, but I'm totally fine when I stretched it. That's why I give a lot more material in the bottom, because it kind of, the way it goes, it kind of pulls it into this U shape like this, right? So then next thing you know, you can go ahead and just start squeegeeing everything down. Really focus on this edge first, and then go ahead and squeegee. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and spray some tack as well. It's gonna help bring this down and let it stick a little bit. So I'm just kind of pulling it down with my fingers right here. And go ahead and push it. Look at that. Okay. So then I'm going into this area. You could start chipping it away. There you go. All right, I don't want to chip away too much, too quick. Just little by little. So you can go ahead. All right, here we go. So right now, okay, here we go. I'm just gonna pull this right here. Watch this. You see how it just flattens out like that? There you go. I'm just focusing on this nice little edge right here. I am going a little bit more aggressive. And then once you get to that line, look at that. I laid that all down. I have some fingers there, no problem. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and untack. See, you might not even have to. I'm gonna tack up here and then down here. Pull this up just a tiny bit. Okay, there we go. So I just kind of move that, really focusing on this edge right here, because we've kind of, in a way, like choking it, because we're just putting so much tension right here, because that's the apex, that there's going to be a lot of bubbles. So when you get to that line, you really want to focus on making sure it's all good right there. Okay, and then after that, it gets, I think, easier in my opinion, because you can just kind of go straight up and all that stuff. I'm gonna go ahead and spray some tack in this area. Okay, look at that. Now the tack, I'm also tacking it down back to the vinyl because I want it to hold. And look at that beautiful one piece right here. And there's just so much tension right now, so it's gonna hold beautifully. Okay. So once we get to this point, I like to do a little bit of trimming. Don't have to do a whole lot. Yeah. Okay. And that's really pretty good right there. I'm gonna go ahead and get some of this right here in the corner. Corners are really important. All right, amazing. So just like I did on this side, we're gonna go ahead and do the same side right here. You can see, wow, same kind of tension. It's been some time, so this is where we could actually pull this back a little bit and shoot some air, bubbles in there. It should be fine. I'm gonna shoot it into there. There you go. All right, so now let's go ahead, just kind of massage this in. And you're probably at this point going, okay, I understand why people do this in two-piece, right? Because it's not, I don't think it's easy, especially for a beginner. I think for a pro it's fine. But, you know, we help people in all different, you know, skill levels, right? So let's go ahead and spray some tack here. And what I'm trying to do is just get to a point where I need to relieve that tension a little bit. I'm okay with this smaller fingers, so don't spend like a whole lot of time on it, honestly. And we're gonna go ahead and relieve it right here. All right, so at this point, right. All right, so you can see the tension is so strong. It's like wanting to curl back. And in a way, that's what's actually going to help with the edges to hold, because since there's so much tension going this way, it's going to want to curl inside once you kind of get all the edges cut. So now that we've done all this, everything gets easier from here on out. I'm going to struggle a little bit. Go ahead and spray on some of that tack. Okay. And then you can start squeegeeing the rest, which is, again, to me, the easiest part is just squeegeeing the top part right here. We can go ahead and spray some of that slip solution. And then look at that. I want to do that one more time. Got myself a nice clean blade. I think this is the part that a lot of people are going to struggle with, is cutting. So obviously you can cut this little wedge, and then you kind of go out. And after that you could cut yourself a good amount of edge around. And then once you get here, you could do the same thing that you did. Kind of go out. There you go. So I've just kind of created a little bit. Here, I'll show you what I just did. There you go. So there's some edge right here. Boom. And then there's a little bit of edge right here. And then you could basically just burn that. And then what you want to do is there's actually a lot of space on the back here, a lot of space on the side, and then not as much here, but a lot more than you probably think. So you could add a little bit more edge, right? So in this case, you could kind of go up again Gonna cut a little bit of that. All right. So go ahead and flatten that out a little bit before I start cutting. Okay, and then when you're cutting, it's really not, you're just kind of scoring it, just so you know. So look at that. Once I started it, you can see that I can do that like this. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And then of course, some of these you might want to spray a lot more tack. Just really make sure you start chipping away some materials because it's going to want to start really folding over. So if you start cutting some of those materials away, it will make everything a little bit easier. So like for example, like right now I just cut all this material and now I could, look at that, it just kind of sits down a little bit better, right? Same thing over here. There's plenty of material right here. You can go ahead and right now it's stuck right here, but it's trying to curl up. Right, so just kind of cut that out. Okay, and then you can see it's starting to curl as well. And then same thing here, you do the same kind of cut. And then that's how you do the one piece on the Model Y Juniper, right? So it's the final pieces right here. You can start to kind of tack all this down. Perfect, same thing here. You can tack all this down as well. And then most certainly you also want to start cutting the top because you really don't need all of this anymore. That's just plenty. And then that will also make it a lot easier for you to handle. There you go. And that's pretty much it. So there you have it. We have this wing basically wrapped. If you have a spoiler, it's even harder. You could remove it, but on the performance, it's actually bolted in. So it's a little bit hard to move. Not too bad though. Not a big issue, but this is basically what you would do. If you are very mechanically inclined, you could remove this stuff. It will make it easier. You just need to make sure it's mounted somewhere so it's not moving around when you're doing that. Other things to kind of note for is there is a large amount of stretch. So as you start chipping away, you'll notice that it'll start like folding over like that. And that's actually a good thing. So once you get your edge about like 3 millimeter or 2 millimeter above the edge, it'll just kind of fold in naturally. Just make sure you're spraying down all the edges right here so it'll dry. And then after that you cut, and then like this corners right here, you could kind of burn with a torch. And that'll give you a really, really nice edge right here. So I think that's pretty much it. You can kind of see why DIYers tend to do the two-piece. It's just really hard. A very, very aggressive stretch. It requires you to do a lot of techniques here. So that's why it's two-piece. But if you would like to try, here it is. Hopefully you learned something. And if you have any questions, let us know in the comments below. We love creating resources on really anything DIY wraps, PPF, vinyl, color PPF, whatever that is. So just ask any questions. We'll be there. Click on that subscribe button. We'll see you later.